Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hmm. Thank you for inviting me into your space.
I appreciate that. So, I would love to explore with you this topic of trust and safety as your experience being in a female-bodied being in relation to men and the masculine. So, to start off
Mhm.
with, I'd love to know a little bit about you. I know that we met, our connection is from the UK and in London, but before that, you grew up in
In
Morocco?
Morocco.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And when did you come over to the UK?
When I was 18 for university.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So growing up in Morocco, how how was that?
Oh, that's a broad question. It was, I mean, it's hard to, I don't have a reference for what it's like to grow up anywhere else.
That's true.
So it was all I knew. And I had a very happy childhood on the whole.
Okay.
Um,
Let me rephrase
Morocco,
that better. Did you notice a cultural shift from your time in Morocco to then coming to the UK?
totally,
Oh,
totally. Um, Morocco is a bit like Mexico, where we're both in right now. So the collective field is very much people are a little more present. People are a little more fluid with their time
okay.
and
Yep.
their commitments.
Uh-huh.
Um, there's a joy and love of life that
Hmm.
um, is just really entrenched. Like I feel people are, for the most part, more connected to their hearts in
Hmm.
Mexico and Morocco than they are in London. Um, and also, there is a lot of issues. There's a ton of overt, explicit injustice and inequality. Um, I think there's some of that in the UK, but I've mostly encountered that in the UK at extremely high political levels of like coaching executive teams that run big companies, and it's like
Hmm.
um, it's more covert, it's more hidden. Not that that makes it better, but
Right. Okay.
I
It's more
wasn't worried
subtle.
from, yeah, it's much more subtle and there's still, I don't know, it felt like there was an inclusivity. Like there were some neighborhoods in Morocco I wouldn't walk alone at night, whereas I never felt that way in the UK.
Ah, okay.
I,
So there was a safety
I,
piece there.
there was a safety piece and there's also a protection piece if we're going to talk about the
Okay.
masculine and relationship with the masculine, where in Morocco, women are not at all protected by the law. So, for
Oh,
example,
wow.
I have a sister, I don't have a
Hmm.
brother, and for years, basically, if anything happened to my dad, um, my mother and me and my sister would basically be left with nothing. So we decided to take all our assets and split them four ways so that we co-owned 25% of them. Because if he were to die or something were to happen to him, everything would go to his brother,
Oh, wow.
you
Okay.
know? And so
Interesting.
inheritance is like women get half and what men get. There's like this whole cultural, patriarchal, traditional um, society where
Okay.
men provide and women are at home with the family, which is not at all obviously how I live my life.
That's exactly how I've put you into a box. That's exactly. Okay. So, okay. So grew up in Morocco, came over to the UK at 18 for university, recognized the cultural difference of, the vitality in Morocco, kind of similar to Mexico, but also this difference between this embedded cultural difference between masculine and feminine or male and female, how men are considered and treated differently in the eyes of the law compared to women.
Totally. And I have to add, I have to add that I've evolved myself personally on this
Mm.
journey. And I used to feel, oh, Morocco's bad. Like, let's go for freedom, liberties.
Right.
There's much more room for empowerment in a country like the UK. And as I've gone deeper and deeper and deeper in my healing journey, I have kind of come back to more traditional way of being. As I've
Oh.
embraced my own femininity, I'm seeing that actually, like in the UK, I'm seeing a lot of like polarity that's just disappeared between couples and between genders because women are earning more money than men, and men have been kind of emasculated in so many ways and
Mm.
in the communication part. So I feel like even at a cultural level, I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but I am feeling, even though like I don't need a man to take care of me financially. I want a man to protect me, not because I need protection and I'm weak, but because I'm super valuable and delicate, and that's the
Mm.
so I have like gone a little bit back to my
Okay.
roots. Yeah,
Okay. So there's this recognition of the value of, if you want to say, gender roles and the desire as a woman to be valued by a man. And that's not necessarily to be supported financially, but to be protected and and not from a
totally.
place of weakness, but from a place of value appreciation.
Yes to gender roles with consciousness. So it's
I
not
feel like
like
that's a big
gender role.
caveat. Yeah.
Well,
No, an important one, like a super important one. Yeah, please speak into that.
well, I'm not really attracted to men who get jealous or have strong opinions, who want to boss me around or, you know, um,
Okay.
forbid, control me or forbid me of doing things. And yet, I absolutely am attracted to following the leadership of a man whom I respect, who respects me, who treats me as a peer. And I
Mm,
absolutely would invite my partner to make decisions for us that I would choose to surrender into, but it's from a place of choice and mutual appreciation rather than capitulation.
okay. So what I
Yeah,
feel I'm hearing here, please correct me if I've misinterpreted, mistaken, is the desire and recognition and value and appreciation of the difference between uh masculine integrated leadership compared to unintegrated dominance.
yeah, that's a good way of putting
Okay, thank you. I'm curious then,
it.
multiple things. Where to start? Okay, I'll start here. What does safety mean to you?
It didn't used to mean much, is the truth.
Okay. Wow.
It, yeah, I used to be this like the human Camilia identity used to be this fearless, extremely courageous. Um, we we don't need to be safe because it just there's none of that's necessary. We get to just live fully,
Right.
and I would run towards fire. And as obviously I'm an executive coach. Obviously, in the last few years, for anyone who's listening to this, I have kind of shifted away from working with um, huge collective systems like big organizations and focused on working with groups, working with teams, working with individuals, and gone deeper and deeper and deeper on the individual transformation piece. And as part of my own healing journey and my developing an increasing amount of expertise in that inner work,
Hmm.
um, I have developed a relationship with safety that
Oh,
keeps evolving. And I've learned that it's everything. It's like the core tenet without safety, we don't have access. And
Hmm.
like we don't have access to our unconscious mind. We are
Hmm.
deeply self-deceptive creatures. Like we're delusional. That's part of the human condition. And part of the game is for us to remember the truth. Part of the game of life is to just keep remembering who we are truly. And to really do that at the deepest level, we can only access those hidden, deeper, more tender, delicate parts of ourselves with the presence of a safe space, with the presence of safety within ourselves, first and foremost. So I take safety now extremely seriously, not only in my work, obviously with clients, but in all of my relationships, in the way I lead my life, in the way I move and express, because especially my journeys with plant medicine have shown me
Hmm.
that it's the gentlest, most delicate weaving, and unless you really, really, really slow down and move at the pace of whatever presence you're wanting to awaken, you're stuck at a shallower level of delusion. So yeah, safety,
Hmm.
safety is key.
Double fist pump for safety. I like that. Okay. Um, there's thank you. I feel like there's a lot of richness to explore in what you shared. This um perhaps youthful disregard of the value of safety and recognition and appreciation, and increasingly so, of the value of safety. And by the sounds of it, from a personal level, like an unconscious, intrinsic creation of safety from within. Is that right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then not just for yourself, but for your clients, etc. How does that manifest for you then in how you conduct your life with safety?
How does it manifest? I am much more aware and considerate of the invisible energies underneath people's words and actions, including my
Oh,
own.
okay.
Um, and I take a lot of extra care to fuel that environment. And I'm so sorry, all my cleaners are in
You
the house today. So,
you okay. You're good.
um, yeah, I'm much more consciously resourcing the collective so that the field feels better and better and better and feels good, so that people have access to positive generative states of consciousness, so that they can go to the level of depth that they want in any given
Mm,
interaction. Yeah.
okay. So how you're conducting yourself, being more conscientious and aware of the subtle communications that people are offering, and being more attuned to that, which I love, this idea of nonverbal communication. And then where I'd love to hear more of is, well, what does safety feel like? How do you know when you are safe?
Well, you're not in your head.
Hmm.
You're not wondering, right? Like you're not questioning. Like there's some very obvious indicators, right? Like especially as women, like sometimes
Hmm.
you just feel like someone's following you when you're walking home, at night. And so it's like, oh, am I safe right now? So there's none of that. And so the
Okay.
way that manifests in the body is through relaxation and increasing desire, like almost sexual desire. Like there's a turn on energy of wanting to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. So part of the equation is the absence of apprehension or absence of concern, and then
Mhm.
also the presence of a desire, it's perhaps, like some with an erotic element to it, to go deeper into whatever it is that's being experienced right in that moment. So it's a
Yeah,
pulling towards.
whether it's the actual scene or situation
Yes.
between the two people or the group of people or the event or whatever.
Mm,
But most importantly, I would say the desire to go deeper within oneself. So, like, there's not one Camellia, there's like so many, right? Like, there's the Camellia human identity, there's the spiritual back consciousness that's super expansive, that's way
mm,
wider than my body, that's never going to die. And then there's all the different parts of me. Like, we're all made of such multitudes. And a lot of those parts are dormant as we go through the motions of practical day-to-day life.
life.
The
Yeah.
safer I become, the more those parts of me, it's like they're like knocking at the door and it's like, oh yay, there's space for me. And
They
so
come
I'm
online.
more of myself. Yeah, I'm more of
Mm.
myself when I'm safe.
Okay. So that's great. I love that. I'm curious then is when in relation to men and the
Hmm.
masculine,
Hmm.
what allows you to do that? How
That's
do
a
you know?
really, really good question.
Thanks.
Um, Trust is huge.
Mm.
Um, do I trust the man or not? Obviously, but if we go under, what does that even mean? Well, do I trust his masculine energy is important. So we're talking about a man. And
Yeah.
for me, that often needs to mean if I'm to surrender fully and open fully and be as safe as I possibly can be, that the man has a more developed masculine energy that's integrated within himself than my own. So I have a
Oh,
strong,
oh,
yeah. Well, otherwise, why would I?
surrender to
I'd
him.
feel safer in his absence than in his presence.
You feel
If
safer
that
with
was,
yourself than with him.
if my masculine is stronger
Sure.
than his.
What
Yeah.
does that mean for someone
I
listening
mean,
who's trying to
yeah.
understand that?
I mean, it can mean like, you know, let's just take a really basic example. If we're going on a first date, right? We're going out for dinner. Um, it means that they need to be able to create the environment and take charge and make the booking and pick the restaurant or get me to, invite me to do that, but do it in a way that like there's competence there, right? In a way, in the same way that, I've been traveling the world for 2 years. I know how to move in the world. If
Mm,
they're completely lost and extremely hesitant and aren't really matching me,
mm.
aren't really reading the energetic signals. Like, I mean, seriously, this happened to me recently where I was supposed to meet this man for lunch and I was at the hairdresser's and I sent him my location. I was like, this is where I am. And his response was, oh, great, I'll meet you there. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, why would you meet me here? I'm at the hairdresser's. I was just sharing with you where I am so that you can take charge. And I've given you data in your master equation. It's like maybe this neighborhood, maybe there's somewhere nearby, maybe there's right. And like he wasn't leading at all, so I couldn't follow him. And the lunch ended up not happening because I was just like, this
Okay.
isn't really for me.
So how would you have liked that to have played out instead?
Oh, amazing. Would you like me to pick you up? I know an amazing place down the road.
Uh,
We could go there if you like.
this is super interesting from a personal point of view because no, it is because there's the it feels like a conflict for me of wanting to do that, but then the other half wanting to bring you into that conversation. It kind of feels like not wanting
So
to make assumptions.
if you pay attention to the words I used,
Yeah,
you absolutely are bringing me into the conversation. You're taking charge and asking for consent, asking for guidance. It's still,
yeah,
I mean, I sent the location anyway. It's like, egg and
yeah.
sperm, eggs emitting signal, right?
Hmm.
Sperm is making its way into the egg. Like, woman and man at a bar. Who's moving first? The woman or the man? Well, unless the woman's made eye contact or, has done a little subtle, little energetic yes,
Hmm.
probably the man's not going to go up to her, right? So it is a conversation, absolutely. It's not like, okay, I booked here and meet me there at 7 p.m. Although that can be attractive too, but there needs to be an established level of kind of trust
Right.
where it's like, okay, there's an agreement of domination and surrender that's
Yes.
just kind of fun. But yeah, before that, it's how would that sound whilst taking the lead, right? Whilst taking charge, whilst moving
Mm.
whatever's happening forward.
What do you think inhibited him from doing that?
I mean,
It's conjecture, of course.
infinite number of possible things,
Mm. Is
right?
that
Like, where
some?
do we?
Yeah. Well, well, I feel like there's something valuable in there. I haven't quite found what it is, but it's like I wonder if in that situation I would have done the same because uh, it felt polite for me to not. I don't know. I
Yeah,
love that. I love that you said, the language that I use. There's the opportunity to say, "I know a place near there. Is it okay if I take you there or whatever?" Yeah, that's great. Um, I
I
wonder
think
if,
men. I think I said this to you before in a
yeah,
private context, but I see this with a lot of my male clients
yeah,
too.
go on.
Um, okay, this I'm so glad we talked about culture at the beginning because I do think it's culture specific.
Yes. Oh, to learn
I would
Wi-Fi.
say in England, most men. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Am I back?
you're back. You're back.
Okay. So I think this is culture specific. I
Yeah.
would say in the UK, most men, like it's a total myth that they need to be polite. Most men, most men err on the side of overly in their feminine,
Mm,
right? And so there's so much leeway for them to reaffirm their power, reaffirm their security, their confidence, their knowing, right?
mm,
And take charge and move in a much more like I understand not wanting to seem forceful or
mm,
create damage or traumatize, but I feel like there's a huge gap for English men to move closer to that. In Morocco, I wouldn't say that. In Morocco, I think there's so much disintegrated masculinity
the other
that
side.
people just lack awareness. They need to actually come down from whatever pedestal they think they're on. So there's, I'm not saying, again, this is about consciousness.
Mm,
It's about how it's done, right?
yes.
So the woman is absolutely, she still feels held, right? But she also feels guided at the same time. And it's this really like that's how I describe a man in like that has an integrated masculine, which is where we started, right? And it's like
Yeah.
I treat myself that way, like I treat
Mm,
my business that way. I have lots of processes and systems and masculine structures that are predictable and reliable so I can lean on them, so I can
yes.
flow in them, so I can be in my feminine nature, which is also centered sometimes and fierce, but there's fluidity.
I agree, and from the conversations that I've had, the one of the overarching themes is the desire from women to be able to surrender into their feminine essence, this idea of flowing and playing, and the value of men and a man creating the structure and the container for a woman to be able to do that. And so then I'm curious, with such disparity between,
Mhm.
you know, the overly polite men, perhaps effeminated, and the unintegrated dominant men.
Yeah. Slim pickings.
Well, it feels like part of the conversation is perhaps men not feeling safe to be in their masculine.
I absolutely think that there's a joint responsibility to co-create any kind of dynamic. And I also agree with what you said earlier around all we want, women, is to be held and to feel safe. And
Yeah.
then we break open and we're in our hearts. And so that's
Mm,
like one of the first questions we ask ourselves, whether it's conscious or not, by the way, right? But at an
yes.
unconscious level, what we're scanning for is, can this man hold me? And
Hmm.
for me, I've worked out, yes, he can if his masculine is more confident than mine. And that's great. Um, but absolutely, absolutely, like even I used to be in my masculine too much, and I have softened tremendously over the last few years, and I'm sure there's tremendous extra deeper softening to come.
Mm,
And that has created a space for men to show up that way with me in a way that I didn't believe was possible, where I'm like respected and valued and honored and treasured and cherished, and at the same time dominated in a totally consensual way, right?
mm,
And guided and supported and protected and taken care of. And I don't think that I left much room for that to happen before I knew about these energies and this work and these
right.
dynamics. And
Yeah, I love that you've been on this journey of softening your masculine and embracing your feminine and finding
mm,
integration of the two. I think that's beautiful. Um, and I celebrate that hugely. And I feel like there was something that just stuck out for me when you shared this idea of I can surrender into my feminine when I know that the man I'm with, his integrated masculine is more embodied than my own. And I feel like I think that in a nutshell is it.
mm,
And there's so much it seems, it looks challenge for men in doing that. Because with the rise of the empowered woman, there's perhaps been this um, mm, a loss of the man's innate understanding of how to navigate, plus the lack of effective male role models of what a healthy integrated masculine looks like. And I wonder if, to a degree, many men just feel lost and don't know how to do that.
I completely agree with that. I think as a society, we haven't made it easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like women are so from the people that I know, the relationships I've been in, the people I have the fortune of getting to connect with, like yourself, women have this innate understanding of their femininity and have been encouraged to develop their masculinity, and men haven't, to a degree, this sense of, well,
I think it's
men,
the same.
you think?
I think men have an innate knowing of their masculinity and they've been in some cases, tested to subdue that and in various ways. And I know I can very
Mm.
clearly categorize all the men I know in my life
Ooh.
and put like on the left those who have questioned and repressed and softened their innate natural dark desires,
Uh-huh.
and primal, strong masculine instincts, and just put a kind of mask or lid on that. And then those who just own it. And even having said
Oh.
that, even and so it's like they're protecting it at a deep primal level. They're not letting the outside conditioning affect that part of who they are. So they've held on to it. And even for those who haven't let it affect them, I'm seeing a huge need for deep inner work and deep healing. Because what I find with those people is they need they have lots of exiled parts of them. So it's like they're
Mm.
super masculine in so many ways, and then they're super aware that they're super masculine in so many ways, and they get like lots of traction with women, or lots of traction in business, or lots of success in all these different kind of physical
Uh-huh.
contacts. And then there's like these other things that happen, like they can't sleep alone, or they get super
Mm.
anxious around certain people, or like there's, or they really have weird, or they judge the weirdness of their sexual desires, and they basically have unintegrated shadows that
Yes.
fuck with them. So I think
Yes.
even those who've like preserved that essence, there's kind of almost like this extra blind spot they have for parts they haven't healed, versus the ones on the left. I feel like they're doing lots of healing, but there's an embodiment piece that's missing because they never let themselves go the whole way. So there's like deficit in action, deficit in taking a lead, deficit in just really, because what is the, if you strip it down, I've been working with this a lot in the last few months, because I was working through a personal traumatic thing that happened with my dad, and I've been reevaluating my whole relationship to the masculine as a result. It's like traumatic deeply for my nervous system, but really not on the surface of things. It like involved eating the last pancake when I was 6 at the kitchen table, so it wasn't a scary
Yeah.
moment, but it was so
Significant.
developmental. Yeah. And what I have found, a part of my own self stopped developing as a result of that scene, and I'm like kind of rewiring my brain to gain all my energy back and sovereignty back. And I was like, oh my God, like this whole anxious attachment that I have, or
Mm.
this piece of me that is completely unable to make a decision and stick to it. It's like I'll make a decision and I'll kind of stick to it, and then I'll go back on it because
Mm.
it's too hard, and the feeling, it's like there was a leak in my bucket,
Right.
in my masculine bucket, where I was just not capable of it because there's like this
Right.
extra heart wound. I need the love. And
Mm.
when I stripped it down, I was like, wow, that is what being masculine is. And I'm surrounded now, not before, but now I'm surrounded by incredible positive role models. It's like partners that I've had or teachers that I have who are male. And it's like what they do is they're ruthless in deciding, and then immediately reassembling all of reality to act on that decision. And there's no secure, it's like there's no, it's just immediate acceptance. It's like I couldn't accept the decision. It's like I'd make it, and it's like, an easy example is like I'm break up with him. Break up with him. It's like I text him. Break up with him. I
Right.
text. It's like no, immediately you stop. You just stop forever. It's over, right?
Okay. A
That's
complete
like super
acceptance of the
masculine,
decision.
a complete and acceptance and immediate execution and
It,
consistent follow through of the decision. That's super masculine in a healthy way.
yeah, I feel like, I mean, there's a lot to speak into. I'm aware of time. Okay. So I feel like what you shared there
I
with the essence
I
of
can
masculine
go.
was to make it. Yeah, I know we could go forever.
I have 15 extra minutes than I said. If you want to
Oh,
go longer, yeah,
oh,
but
okay.
my thing got me.
Okay. 5 minutes. 5 minutes would be great. Um, what I got to was the essence of masculine is to be able to make a decision and then restructure reality to actually follow through. It feels like the alignment of words and actions.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think of it, that's what happens in couples. Like the man makes the decision that this is my woman. I'm gonna marry her. She's my wife. I choose her,
Mm, mm.
right? Energetically, and then just aligns to that. And then the woman can receive all that, right? Like how many I mean, all the healthy relationships I know, it's
Mm.
always been the guy who knows immediately and the
That's her.
woman who's unsure. I can, but I'm not sure. Let's see.
Ah, okay. So I'm so affirmed in my reality that I'm not going to waver in that.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel um, the obvious thing that comes up for me there is fallibility and the ability to be wrong.
Totally, but that doesn't mean like you make a decision and you never change your mind. It means you make a decision and you stick to it, and then you're still open that we know nothing and we're in a relationship with the unknown and there's more data points. But I feel like there are thresholds. You know, it's
Okay.
like accumulation of things, and then it's like, and again, we can use the same example. How many
Yeah.
times? I mean, I've experienced that, but how many times with like, I want her, she's my wife,
Yeah.
right? Immediately, right? And then 6 months later, it's like, there's these incompatibilities. Okay,
Mm.
maybe I was wrong. And I think like the person I have in my head,
Yeah.
the relationship that ended there, I think that was right. I think that the initial connection was right, and I think that the long-term compatibility was right also. And like that was true. It was all true. We were supposed to be together
Ah,
for a
okay.
finite amount of time. So of course, it doesn't mean you never reevaluate, but you know, it means you're not like procrastinating, you're not like waiting, you're not like wavering. Like I
Okay.
would waver when I was describing my leak.
Yeah.
It's like I would waver in a super short period of time in incredibly irrational ways,
Right.
right? Like it wasn't okay, and now reality is showing something else. Let's change, you know.
Okay. So it feels like the presence of masculine certainty invites the playful surrender into femininity.
Yeah, like there's reliability. There's
Mm.
um there's a
Okay.
he got me. I don't need to think of all these things or worry about all these things. I can just be present. I can be here.
I'm safe.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Interesting. I think this is great. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. I know that we could talk much longer. So before we do part ways, firstly, thank you. Thank you for sharing your time and your insights. Um, I'm curious if you have a takeaway word or sentence or thought from everything we shared.
I think men and women want the same thing. Um, but we're such wild, different creatures. And we don't even know how we ourselves operate. And it's a really worthy investment to invest in understanding our own maps and each other's so that we can give each other that gift.
And what is that thing that men and women both want, would you say?
Well, I think both men and women want love and safety and trust with each other. I think men want to
Mm,
be held by women too.
mm, mm. Yeah, I would agree with you. And that's a whole other conversation. Um, okay, so if I heard that correctly, the value of investing in understanding our own individual maps invites being held in reciprocity in love.
Yeah, If I were to summarize it, I would say we both have equal needs for safety in the relationship. And then women have an extra desire for protection, and men have an extra desire for respect. And if we can
Oh.
kind of create that harmonious environment for those states and energies to
Uh-huh.
exist, then
Yeah.
we're in for a really cool ride, you know?
I love that. Yes, I'm a big fan of harmony, so I love that that's where we've ended up. Thank you.
Harmony.
Yeah, it's just harmony. That's what we're all striving for. I would very much say that myself. Please share a little into yourself for those who are curious. Anything that feels like you'd like to share. Where can people
Oh,
find you? Who are you?
that's that. I mean, that's
That's
so
a whole
interesting.
other conversation in of
I
itself.
have no idea who I am. No, um, I spend a good portion of my time enjoying my life, and when I'm working, I love to help influential, competent, impactful leaders, men and women, mostly men, but men and women, find really deep inner freedom.
Mm, nice.
Yeah.
Where's the best place to find you other than the beach?
LinkedIn,
Okay, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn or the beach.
Okay. LinkedIn or the beach. Perfect. I love that. Camilia, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. It's been worth its weight in gold and in time. So